There is a country in Africa where it snows every winter, where the lowest point sits higher than Denver, and where an entire nation lives on a plateau so high the clouds drift below the parking lots. Most maps barely mark .it. The world files it under a small, cold corner of Africa. But the altitude that freezes this place is the same altitude that kept it free, proud, and unconquered for 200 years. This is a kingdom built in the sky. Lesotho is the only independent nation on Earth whose entire territory sits above 1,000 meters, and not one square inch of the country drops below it. The lowest point in all of Lesotho still sits at around 4,593 feet. That is higher than Denver, the city Americans call the Mile High City. People have a name for this place. They call it the Kingdom in the Sky. It is a description. This is Lesotho, home of the Basotho people, a sovereign kingdom sitting entirely inside the borders of another country, South Africa. Right now, in these very months, it is deep winter up on that plateau, snow against the doors while much of the world runs its summer. Wherever you are watching from, look out your window and picture .it, a whole nation living higher than the tallest peak in your state in a cold you would have to climb a mountain to find. Keep that image close, because everything that follows grows out of it. Say the word Africa, and most people picture heat, endless sun, red desert, the kind of temperature that shimmers off the sand. So, in Lesotho, it snows. Real snow, thick enough to close mountain passes. And on the high plateau, the winter temperature can drop below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. How does a country this close to the equator get that cold? It is not latitude, it is altitude. The whole country sits up among the clouds, and temperature falls the higher you go. Lesotho's snow season runs from June to August, the exact months of the Northern Hemisphere summer. That is because Lesotho sits below the equator in the Southern Hemisphere, where the seasons are flipped. And Lesotho is not the only place in Africa that gets snow. Morocco and Algeria get it too, up in the Atlas Mountains. What makes Lesotho singular is different. It is home to the only operating commercial ski resort in southern Africa, Afriski, perched at around 10,570 feet. People ski in Africa, and this is one of the only places they can. The weather up here does not just get cold, it gets violent. The Eastern Highlands, the Melodi-Drakensberg Range, records some of the densest lightning in the region. Satellite data from 2021 measured roughly 18 strikes per square kilometer every year, thrown off by storms that build against the terrain. At this altitude, the sky does not just chill you, it comes at you. If a snowfield in Africa just cracked an assumption you did not know you were carrying, you are not alone. So, I am curious, what is one thing you always assumed about Africa that turned out to be completely wrong? Drop it in the comments. Half the reason this channel exists is to trade those in. To reach parts of these highlands, you climb the Sani Pass, cresting around 9,436 feet. It is one of the most dangerous mountain roads on the continent, a series of switchbacks that swallow vehicles whole. At the top sits the highest pub in Africa, where clouds roll across the parking lot while you order a drink at eye level with the weather. In the high villages, where roads do not reach at all, the Basotho pony is not transport, it is a lifeline. Ponies carry children to school across passes a car could never climb. They carry the sick 30 miles to the nearest doctor. As one saying goes, a horse here is not a vehicle, it is a neighbor. The homes match the land. On the high plateau, families build with mud brick and thick stone walls. No modern insulation anywhere in sight, and yet inside, they stay warm enough to take your gloves off. Step through the door, and you cross into another world. Outside, the wind cuts it freezing. Inside, the fire holds. Education reaches even up here, and reaching .it is its own kind of feat. Primary school is free, but the mountain terrain is brutal. So, only around 80% of children finish primary education, and the numbers fall sharply at higher levels. Many of those who do make it walk or ride a pony across a pass to get there. A commute measured not in minutes, but in mountains. The altitude gives this country its identity. It also, some winters, turns on the people who live there. When the heavy snow comes, Families in the remote highlands can be cut off for days at a time, sealed in by ice with no phone signal to call for help. The mountains that protect them also isolate them. Black ice glazes the mountain roads and stops ambulances from reaching the clinics. The government has to send graders and salt trucks just to reopen a single route to a village. Warnings go out through official channels, but the deepest villages have no electricity and no internet to receive them in time. The gap is not .1 of effort, it is one of distance. And distance up here multiplies every risk. There is an economic cost woven into the core too. Highland livelihoods lean on selling wool and mohair, and a bad winter can ruin the quality of the fleece, taking the year's income with it. The weather does not just threaten lives, it threatens the ledger the whole village lives by. But the story of the mountains is not only hardship, and the country has learned to answer them. In September of 2024, an out-of-season snowstorm trapped students from 2 schools on the road. Because of a disaster preparedness program funded by the European Union, the teachers knew the evacuation procedure immediately and moved the children to shelter. Then the National Disaster Management Authority and the Red Cross brought blankets and food and waited out the road. The sky can still turn. These days, more often, someone is ready when it does. It's a treasure. Here is where the whole story turned. Ask a Basotho elder about the snow, and you may not hear about danger at all. Many will tell you that snow is not a disaster to be survived. It is a blessing to be received. In a country this dry for much of the year, water falling from the sky in any form is a gift. For the children, a snow day means much, the same thing it means anywhere. Not quite an official holiday, but close enough. The kind of morning where the classroom empties out and the hillside fills up. Some things are universal, even at 11,000 feet. And then there is the money. Frisky took point to the thing the mountains threw down and turned it into an economy. On a winter weekend, the resort draws somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 visitors a day. For many Africans, seeing snow for the first time is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and they come up the pass to touch it. Frisky earns more than 85% of its entire annual revenue in the 3 winter months of June, July, and August, and it supports over 150 seasonal jobs. An entire small economy grows every winter around the one thing other places would call a catastrophe. The Basotho looked at falling snow and saw falling silver. To understand this nation's pride, you have to go back to a single mountain and a single king. In the early 1820s, southern Africa was tearing itself apart in a period of upheaval Basotho remember as the Leaf Economy, and scattered clans were being crushed and displaced. One leader, Moshoeshoe I, made a decision that would define a people. He climbed. He took a flat-topped mountain fortress called Thaba Bosio and gathered the broken Sotho groups to him on its heights. It rises around 1,804 meters, ringed by cliffs about 120 meters tall, with a summit of roughly 2 square kilometers holding grazing land and at least 6 springs, enough to outlast any siege. Only 6 narrow passes lead to the top, each one easy to hold and deadly to climb. But Thaba Bosio was never only a fort. Archaeologists have found signs of human life there stretching back to the Middle Stone Age, along with sand rock paintings, an unbroken thread of culture from prehistory to the present. Locals still tell it another way, spoken as legend. The mountain grows larger at night, so that attackers who came in darkness lost their way on its slopes. For more than 50 years, Thaba Bosio never fell. Moshoeshoe defeated the British in 1851 and again in 1852. He turned back the Boer in 1858. In one siege in 1865, a force of some 6,000 Boer soldiers under a commander named Lou Wepener threw themselves at the mountain and were pushed back down it. Wepener was the only enemy who ever reached the summit before he was killed. ... And the path where he fell carries his name to this day. And the mountain did more than hold ground. It forged a people. Today, around 99.7% of Lesotho's population belongs to the same Sotho group, making it one of the most ethnically unified nations on Earth. The language itself, Sesotho, was the tool Moshoeshoe used to weld scattered clans into a single nation on top of that mountain. He did not just win a war, he built a people who would refuse to be anything but themselves, a mountain that never fell, and a nation forged on top of it. If that story hit the way it hits you, take 1 second to like this video and send it to someone who thinks they already know Africa. It genuinely helps stories like this one reach the people who have never heard them. Now, stay with me, because the reason this kingdom sits locked inside another country is prouder than it looks. Lesotho is surrounded on all 360 degrees by South Africa. Look at the map and it seems like a country swallowed whole. But that is not what happened, and the truth flips the whole picture. Lesotho is landlocked inside South Africa, not because it was weak, but because it chose the mountains rather than be absorbed. This was protection by request, not conquest. Let me be precise here. Lesotho is not the only African country never colonized. That is false. What actually happened is subtler, and in its way, prouder. In 1868, facing the threat of being overrun by the Boer, the Basotho asked Britain for protection. In doing so, they kept most of their kingdom, and crucially, all of their culture intact. A people who bent just enough to keep from breaking. That freedom came at a real price, and the Basotho paid it in land. The Free State Basotho Wars, fought between 1858 and 1868, ended with the Convention of Aliwal North in 1869, which drew the border at the Caledon River. Lesotho lost around 10,000 square kilometers of its most fertile farmland to the Orange Free State. There is an entire sovereign nation on Earth, completely surrounded by another country where over 90% of the people say they are proud of their homeland. That is higher than almost any other country on the planet, and its real story is even more fascinating. A lot of people look at a world map and assume this high-altitude country is just a tiny piece of South Africa. Yet the people living here had their own united culture and government long before modern South Africa was ever drawn on a map. Back in the 19th century, their legendary leader, King Moshoeshoe I, gathered different clans on top of mountain fortresses to protect them from invading armies. During those brutal wars, the kingdom lost massive fertile plains to European settlers. Today, that lost farmland sits inside South Africa's Free State province, and locals still remember it as the conquered territory. Even after losing that land, the people never gave up their independence. On the 4th of October in 1966, the Kingdom of Lesotho officially became a fully independent nation once again. When you look at public data, that historic pride is very real. A massive survey run by Afrobarometer showed that around 91% of Basotho are proud to be citizens of their mountain kingdom. Very few populations anywhere on Earth scored that high when asked about their national identity. Living as an enclave creates one of the most unusual everyday situations in the world. Lesotho is completely circled by the borders of South Africa, meaning every single road out goes into one single neighbor. Their national currency is the loti, and it is tied directly one-to-one with the South African rand. You can walk into almost any store in Lesotho and buy your groceries using South African bills without any exchange fees. For more than a century, thousands of Basotho men had to leave home to work deep in South African gold and platinum mines. That long history of migrant work changed the whole economy. Data from the World Bank shows that around 40% of the country's entire economy still relies on money sent back home from workers across the border. Because so many men spent years working in distant mines, the daily society back home developed in a truly unique way. In most places around the globe, men historically have higher literacy rates than women. In Lesotho, the numbers are completely flipped upside down. UNESCO data shows that female literacy sits at nearly 90%, while male literacy is under 74%. This huge educational gap started because young boys were sent high into the mountains for months to herd livestock. While the young boys watched cattle in the cold peaks, young girls stayed near the villages and attended local schools every day. With husbands working in underground mines and boys tending herds, women took total control of family finances, farming, and running local communities. Women even stepped into politics through a special zebra list voting system that alternates male and female candidates to push female representation toward 50%. When mining jobs dropped across the region, women adapted again and became the main workforce in a booming local garment industry. Women also kept the artistic soul of the nation alive through incredible traditions. They practice a traditional wall painting style called latima, carving intricate geometric patterns into the mud walls of their homes. These beautiful wall murals are made before major village celebrations like weddings, births, and rites of passage. Women also preserve historic indigo textiles like the Shana Morena cloth, a legendary fabric originally named after their founding king and passed down through generations. If you ever see photos of Lesotho, the first thing you will notice is their iconic clothing. Almost everyone wears a thick, warm woolen blanket, known locally as a kobo, as standard everyday dress. Herdsmen, office workers, taxi drivers, and village elders all wrap themselves in these bright, heavy blankets. This world-famous tradition kicked off around 1860 when French missionaries presented King Moshoeshoe I with a wool blanket. The king loved the warmth so much that the nation traded their old animal skin cloaks for durable woven fabric. These blankets are not just warm clothes. They act as a visual language where every pattern tells a specific story. Vertical pinstripes on a blanket signify high quality and show the wearer understands classic style. Patterns featuring corn cobs represent good harvests, fertility, and family abundance. Blankets are also the most important gifts at local weddings, given to wrap the new couple in lifelong warmth and safety. Today, genuine heritage blankets are made under strict licenses, approved directly by the royal house to protect their original quality. This traditional mountain clothing became a massive global pop culture hit when Hollywood came calling. Costume designers for the 2018 movie Black Panther bought over 200 authentic Basotho blankets to dress the fictional border tribe of Wakanda. Beyond their rich culture, this small mountain kingdom holds natural resources that power the biggest cities in southern Africa. Lesotho is often called the Water Tower of Southern Africa because of its high elevation. The Lesotho Highlands Water Project captures mountain rain and exports roughly 780 million cubic meters of clean water every year to South Africa. This mountain water is known as white gold because it provides around 60% of all the water consumed in the megacity of Johannesburg. Gravity does most of the heavy work because Lesotho sits at such a high altitude that water flows downhill naturally through massive mountain tunnels. A huge second phase of this project is expanding tunnels and dams to push exports over 1.25 billion cubic meters annually by 2028. High up in these same peaks, miners dig out some of the most valuable gemstones on the planet. Dams and rivers share these rugged peaks with some of the highest diamond mines on Earth, including Letcheng and Likobong, sitting over 2,300 meters above sea level. These high-altitude mines are famous for producing massive, flawless white diamonds that sell for tens of millions of dollars at global auctions. The geography of Lesotho feels like another world entirely. Tucked away near the town of Semenkomo is Moletsunyane Falls, a giant waterfall that plunges 192 meters in a single drop. That single drop of water is taller than the observation deck of the Empire State Building in New York. Adrenaline junkies travel here from across the globe to attempt the Guinness-certified longest commercial single-drop absinthe on Earth. Hanging from a 669-foot rope, the high, craggy peaks around the falls provide a safe haven for rare wildlife, like the endangered bearded vulture, a massive bird that actually eats animal bones. These mountains also hold ancient secrets frozen in stone from millions of years ago. In 2017, paleontologists in the Maseru district discovered a massive fossil footprint measuring 57 centimeters across. The tracks belonged to a giant Jurassic carnivore named Kayentopus ambrocolohali that roamed these mountains 200 million years ago and grew up to 9 meters long. Lesotho is also home to plant species that cannot be found anywhere else on the planet. The national flower is the rare spiral aloe, an endangered plant that grows its sharp leaves in a perfect 5-tier geometric spiral. This unique succulent only grows wild on high, misty basalt mountain ridges in this exact corner of the world. If you head into the wild valleys of Selebathebe National Park, the landscape reveals layers of human and natural history. The park contains more than 690 separate rock art sites, with over 35,000 individual paintings made by ancient hunter-gatherers. Its clear, chilly mountain streams also protect the critically endangered Maloti minnow, a tiny fish surviving only in these high-altitude waters. From prehistoric dinosaur tracks and rock art to high-altitude diamonds and life-saving mountain water, this nation proves that size on a map means nothing. Lesotho built an unbreakable national identity in the clouds that has survived wars, isolation, and massive political shifts. That is why more than 9 out of 10 Basotho stand tall and tell the world they are proud of their home. Click the video on your screen right now to discover another unbelievable country with a hidden story you never knew existed.